Hi everyone, welcome to Yuktahaar project number 2. I'll wait for a few people to join. I hope you all can hear me well. So our topic for today is heart health and basically focusing on cholesterol and high blood pressure. Okay, so let me begin. So of late, unfortunately, we have been hearing a lot of news on young people, seemingly fit people, having cardiac events, collapsing, and that has caused a lot of panic and fear, and also put obviously the focus on heart health again. And a lot of questions are there in people's mind about how you can is there any way to minimize your risk as far as any cardiac event or any heart event is concerned. So yes, there are something which technically we call them as cardiac risk factors. Now what are these risk factors? Smoking is one, obesity is another, sedentary lifestyle, lack of exercise is the third, and then there is diabetes, high blood pressure and cholesterol, right? So we have to evaluate where we stand. Are we having these risk factors? And then that's a good way of assessing where you stand, how your heart health is. Now as far as obesity, smoking or lack of exercise is concerned, it's pretty much easy to assess and to know whether you are having these conditions or not, which means that are you smoking or not, are you obese or not, are you overweight, or do you move around, or are you having a complete inactive lifestyle, as in where there is no movement. So when these three risk factors are concerned, it's pretty much easy to kind of know about it. But when we talk about the other risk factors, which is diabetes, cholesterol and high blood pressure, these are called as silent killers. Why they are known as silent killers? It's because that people can be walking around with them, with high cholesterol, with hypertension, high sugar levels, without even being aware of it that they have them. Until and unless you kind of go and get them measured, until and unless you get them checked, you get yourself into screening, you will not know if you have any of these concerns. Also, they can creep on you virtually without showing any kind of symptoms. So it's not that a person who's having high sugar is going to necessarily be feeling fainted at times, or a person having high blood pressure would necessarily be having headaches. You don't have any kind of symptoms, and that is why they are known as silent killers. Diabetes, of course, is something that I already spoke about in my last session. That's already been covered. And so now out of these three, what I'm going to talk about is cholesterol and blood pressure together today in this session. Now, when we talk about any of this, whether it's diabetes or whether it's cholesterol or whether it's high blood pressure, the holy trinity, so to speak, they are known as lifestyle diseases, right? We all call them lifestyle diseases. Now, when we call something lifestyle diseases, what does it necessarily essentially mean? It means that हमारे लाइफस्टाइल में ऐसा कुछ है जिसके वजह से ये हमें कंडीशंस, हमें ये कंसर्न्स, हम इससे सफर कर रहे हैं, right? So a lifestyle disease is basically there because of multiple things happening in your lifestyle, and you cannot narrow it down to any one particular food, or even foods, multiple foods. You cannot just narrow it down to one straightforward thing. But as a community, as a society, हम यही चीज बार बार गलत करते हैं. हम हर एक डिजीज को एक खाने के साथ जोड़ देते हैं, एंड समहाउ हमें ऐसा लगता है कि अगर हम वो खाना छोड़ देंगे तो हमारा ये डिजीज जो है ये चला जाएगा. We will be perfectly fit and healthy. For example, when we talk about diabetes, of course I have covered diabetes in my last session, and the focus here is not about diabetes, but just for explanation's sake, for diabetes we often say कि चीनी छोड़ दो, मिठाई छोड़ दो, चीनी शक्कर छोड़ दो, उसी के कारण हो रहा है. So that is one. When it comes to cholesterol, आप जाएंगे even to a doctor, the most common advice is कि घी और तेल छोड़ दो, boiled खाना खाओ, बिना तेल और घी का खाना खाओ, and बस you are fine. When we come to high blood pressure, we are often given this advice कि नमक खाना छोड़ दो, तो नमकीन छोड़ दो, ऊपर से नमक मत लो. Standard advice is अच्छा ठीक है कुकिंग में तो दे दो, पर ऊपर से नमक लेना छोड़ दो. So we actually boil it down to a single food. जब हम कोई चीज को लाइफस्टाइल डिजीज बोलते हैं तो उसके साथ साथ हम जब ये करते हैं, इट्स क्वाइट कॉन्ट्राइंडिकेटरी बिकॉज a lifestyle disease is because of multiple things in the lifestyle, like I said, right? Now let's understand all of these foods one by one. Now when we say कि cholesterol में घी और तेल छोड़ दो, so this is a standard advice that we get. Now first understand that cholesterol itself has its own functions in our body. cholesterol अपने आप में बहुत एक महत्वपूर्ण चीज है, उसके बहुत सारे प्रोटेक्टिव और रिपेयर फंक्शंस हैं बॉडी में. सो इन इटसेल्फ हमारे बॉडी में ऑलरेडी कोलेस्ट्रॉल होता है. जब हम बोलते हैं हाई कोलेस्ट्रॉल हुआ है, हाई कोलेस्ट्रॉल का मतलब क्या है कि जो नॉर्मली एक इंसान के बॉडी में होना चाहिए उससे ज्यादा है. दैट इज व्हाट वी अंडरस्टैंड एज हाई कोलेस्ट्रॉल, राइट? सो अब ये जो कोलेस्ट्रॉल हमारे बॉडी में है, इट इज नॉट देयर जस्ट फॉर किक्स, इट इज देयर बिकॉज इट परफॉर्म्स मेनी वाइटल फंक्शंस इन आवर बॉडी. फॉर एग्जाम्पल विटामिन डी सिंथेसिस, synthesis of sex hormones, even जो माँ का दूध है, the breast milk which is there, it is 60% cholesterol, and we all know that the mother's milk is the best milk for a child. तो एक बच्चे के जन्म होते ही हम उसको कोलेस्ट्रॉल और हार्ट अटैक से तो मारना नहीं चाहते हैं कि भाई तुम 60% कोलेस्ट्रॉल वाला मदर्स मिल्क लो एंड तुम हार्ट अटैक से सफर करो. दिस इज डेफिनेटली नॉट द केस, राइट? सो इन इटसेल्फ consuming things which have fat or in itself cholesterol in the body in itself is not a cause of concern. It has many important benefits, many important functions to perform, and you just have to stop being fearful about it. The second thing is कि घी जो होता है या तेल जो है, as I have mentioned in my book, right, the 3 R's of TBBD. The 3 R's of TBBD is something which is very important when it comes to not only cholesterol and blood pressure but also to a range of other diseases. जब हम बात करते हैं fats की, dietary fats की, तो somebody is written please speak in English, so I'm trying to do a mix of English and Hindi both because there are people who request me to speak in Hindi as well. So I'll try to do a mix of both so that you know it kind of resonates with the larger population. सो जब हम डाइटरी फैट्स की बात करते हैं तो डाइटरी फैट्स जो होता है अपने आप में इट हैज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फंक्शंस, and I was talking about the 3 R's of TBBD. So the right quality which is there, right? So the first R of TBBD is right quality. So here is when things get interesting. आपको डाइटरी फैट्स बंद नहीं करने हैं अपने डाइट से, आपको सिर्फ बॉइल्ड और स्टीम्ड खाना नहीं खाना है, बट आपको राइट क्वालिटी ऑफ फैट्स का चॉइस करना है. एंड व्हाट इज द काइंड ऑफ फैट्स दैट यू नीड टू अवॉइड व्हेन यू हैव एनी ऑफ दीज lifestyle diseases? The kind of fats that you need to avoid are the number 1, the refined oils, the hydrogenated oils, the refined oils. So none of the refined oils जिसका आप टीवी पे commercials देखते हैं, 99% of them are all refined. So those are the oils that you need to avoid. You also need to avoid hydrogenated fats that you would find in confectioneries, bakeries, जो mass produced बेकरी के आइटम्स होते हैं, कन्फेक्शनरी के आइटम्स होते हैं, बिस्किट्स होते हैं, बहुत सारे मास प्रोड्यूस्ड अल्ट्रा प्रोसेस्ड फूड आइटम होते हैं. सो इन द बुक आई हैव रेफर्ड टू देम एज अल्ट्रा प्रोसेस्ड फूड आइटम्स, जिनका आप पहचान कर सकते हैं लिस्ट ऑफ इंग्रेडिएंट्स पढ़कर. हर एक पैकेज फूड के पीछे लिस्ट ऑफ इंग्रेडिएंट्स होता है. उसमें अगर कोई भी ऐसा इंग्रेडिएंट है जो आप अपने किचन में यूज नहीं करेंगे, इसका मतलब वो अल्ट्रा प्रोसेस्ड है. और उसमें कोई ना कोई ट्रांस फैट, हाइड्रोजनेटेड फैट भी होगा जो आपके कोलेस्ट्रॉल और हार्ट हेल्थ के लिए खराब है. सो दैट इज द काइंड ऑफ फैट यू नीड टू अवॉइड. डू यू नीड टू अवॉइड घी? डू यू नीड टू अवॉइड गुड क्वालिटी ऑयल्स? नो. In fact, in Ayurveda, there is a 7-day therapy जिसमें घी को कंज्यूम किया जाता है. The client, the patient is asked to consume ghee in a certain way, of course, under supervision, and it's a different medicated ghee. But the ghee is given for 7 days only to bring the cholesterol down. So ghee has multiple benefits. It's only the right quality of ghee which should be there. What's the right quality of ghee? The right quality, especially if you're a person who is having cholesterol too much, off the roof, too much off the normal levels, too high, blood pressure too high, then you should ensure कि जो दही होता है, दही से जब उसको चर्निंग करके मट कर जब घी बनाते हैं, सो दही से बेसिकली सबसे पहले चर्न करके व्हाइट बटर निकलेगा और वो व्हाइट बटर को हीट करके घी मिलेगा. दैट्स द मोस्ट सुप्रीम क्वालिटी ऑफ घी. एंड पीपल विद कोलेस्ट्रॉल इश्यूज, विद ब्लड प्रेशर इश्यूज, with anything related to your heart health, that is the kind of ghee that you should consume. So ghee is not bad, it's just about knowing the right quality. That is number one. What about oil? Oil भी जब तक आपका unrefined oil है, unrefined oil कौन सा होता है? cold pressed oil होता है, कच्ची घानी का oil होता है, उसको filtered oil भी बोलते हैं. अगर आप वो सब oil का सेवन कर रहे हैं, if you're consuming those oils, then these are oils that are not going to give you any kind of in fact, it will not, I should say that it will not increase your risk of any cardiac event, or it will not slow down your process when you're wanting to get your cholesterol down or when you're trying to get your BP down. A very interesting thing that is practiced by a lot of Ayurveda doctors in the south is using coconut oil. So they use coconut oil, of course in the south people any which ways use coconut oil, so you can use it in your tadka. I don't know if North Indians would like the smell and taste of it, but if that is okay with you, coconut oil again is something which is very good for all of these conditions. बशर्ते ये जो coconut oil है, again it will imply for people who have too much high values, too much high numbers of these concerns that we are talking about. तो आप coconut milk से oil बनता है. So there are two ways of making coconut oil. One is of course through the coconut flesh, और दूसरा तरीका है coconut milk से बनाने का. So the one which is made from the coconut milk, वो वाला coconut oil is something that people with cholesterol and blood pressure issues should consume. Of course, these are also available outside in the market. If you go online also, you will get them. अगर आप YouTube में जाएंगे, आप simply search करिए coconut oil recipe from coconut milk, आपको बहुत सारे videos मिलेंगे, and it can be easily made at home also. अगर that is not possible, then just going for a cold pressed coconut oil, the general one जो coconut flesh से बनता है, even that is okay. But if it is possible, I will prefer that you have the coconut oil which is made from the coconut milk. When we talk about dietary fats, there's also a term in the Ayurveda books which is called as Saumya Bhav. Saumya Bhav is basically, trying to tell people in the Ayurveda textbooks that how important dietary fats, the good quality ones जो मैंने आपको बताया, ये सब जो good quality ones है, जो घी है, जो yogurt दही से बनता है, या फिर जो कोकोनट ऑयल है जो कोकोनट मिल्क से बनाया जाता है, all of these very good quality fats, they can actually cross your blood brain barrier. It's called the BBB. So they can actually cross the blood brain barrier and can actually nourish your brain cells also, leading to a multiple host of benefits. Just not your cholesterol and blood pressure getting better, but a host of benefits can be seen. Also this term Saumya Bhava is to imply कि अगर आप अच्छी quality of fats खाते हो, Saumya is basically soft, gentle, happy. So that's the English meaning of Saumya, and Bhav is just your personality and nature. So if you have these good quality of fats, then you also stay nice and cheerful and happy and gentle and kind. But if you go completely fat free, like what is advised to most of the cholesterol patients, to go completely fat free, to go completely ghee free, oil free, then not only just your body becomes dry. I have seen clients in my office who have had like very dry nipples because they've stopped eating fats completely in fear of cholesterol, who have had like dry brittle hair, the nails are dry, the hair keeps falling off, the skin is dry, the lips are dry. So you just don't have a dry skin, dry body, but you also have a dry, rough nature. Your personality, your nature, the bhav also is very dry and rough. So there is a lot of emphasis, there's a lot of importance attached to eating the right quality of fats. And definitely, even if you have cholesterol, what you just need to be mindful of chucking the ultra processed kinds, but including the right kinds of fats in your plan. When we talk about high blood pressure, again a lot of people are fearful about salt. So the standard advice, as I said, they get कि नमक बंद कर दो, ऊपर से नमक बंद कर दो. But again the kind of salt that you need to avoid is the ultra processed kind, जो कि आपको ये सारे ultra processed food products में मिलेंगे, जिसको कैसे पहचान करना है मैंने अभी आपको बताया है. So most of these ultra processed packages, not most, in fact all of them will use preservatives, and these preservatives are the real reason of having your blood pressure all over the place. Also, नमक जो अपनी नेचुरल फॉर्म में होता है दरदरा होता है. सो सॉल्ट इन इट्स नेचुरल फॉर्म इज नेवर फ्री फ्लोइंग. सॉल्ट इन इट्स नेचुरल फॉर्म इज ऑलवेज चंकी, इट्स ऑलवेज रफ, irregular crystals. This is the natural way a salt is, right? But when you see a free flowing salt that is mostly seen in TV commercials, you understand, you can very well understand कि वो अपने natural state से उसको एक process state में ले जाया गया just to add more free flowing nature to it, because then it probably becomes more convenient for people to put it in the cooking, or it just looks better because it's white, shining and smooth and stuff. But know that it's a processed version. There are chemicals that have been added to shift the rough dardara nature to the free flowing smooth nature, and this is exactly the kind of salt which you should avoid. So avoid the white processed salt which is free flowing. उनमें ना तो कोई एक्स्ट्रा मिनरल्स होते हैं, इट्स फुल ऑफ सोडियम एंड इट डजंट हैव पोटेशियम. नाउ पीपल हु आर हैविंग ब्लड प्रेशर एंड दे हैव रेड हियर एंड देयर अ लिटिल बिट ऑन द इंटरनेट, उनको पता होगा दैट you want to have foods which have good minerals, which have a good mineral balance, which has good potassium. So none of these things are seen in salt or in ultra processed food items, which is the kind which I just mentioned. On the contrary, अगर आप सेंधा नमक खाते हैं, okay, now there's a lot of confusion कि सेंधा नमक क्या है. So I'll clarify in a bit. But अगर आप सेंधा नमक खाते हैं तो वो अपनी natural form में होता है. It is दरदरा, it is chunky, it is not crystal white, and it has a lot of the other minerals which are lacking in the iodized free flowing salt. So apart from iodine, the sendha namak will have potassium also. It will have manganese, magnesium, zinc, many of the important minerals which is required so that you can take care of your heart health, you can take care of your blood pressure, your cholesterol, everything. Sendha namak, how do you recognize? As I said, number one, it's not free flowing, it's not crystal white, it's chunky, it's rough, it's dardara. The other thing is it also have many colors. So there are people who are confused, is Himalayan pink salt sendha namak, या फिर is kala namak sendha namak, what is sendha namak, right? A lot of confusion is there regarding that. So know that कि sendha namak अलग अलग colors में होते हैं. So a Himalayan pink salt is also sendha namak, even kala namak is a form of sendha namak. There is a sendha namak which comes in a purple color. And why is there a difference in the color? It simply represents a different composition of minerals. Like if there is a Himalayan pink salt which is more towards the pinkish side, it has a different composition of minerals, wherein one mineral which is little more pink in color would be more in proportion compared to the other minerals, giving it a little more intense pinker color compared to another one which is probably purple, because it has a higher proportion of some other mineral which is giving that purple color to it. So what is your best bet? आपका बेस्ट बेट है कि आप ये अलग अलग तरह के सेंधा नमक विच आर डिफरेंट कलर्स, इवन काला नमक इज वन ऑफ देम. So you get at least 3 to 4 varieties of rock salt. So they are known as rock salt simply, sendha namak in English. So you get a variety of them, and then you keep rotating them, so that what happens is that you get a good exposure to different kinds of minerals, and you just don't get stuck on only one composition offered by your salt, which is like only one variety all through your life. So as food diversity, I keep saying, is important. In the last session I mentioned how in terms of sugar also is important to rotate the variety of sugars you take instead of going sugar free, or instead of fearing sugar. In the same way here, what you need to do is rotate the different varieties of rock salt that is there. Okay, so this is about the myth. One more myth I want to address is about obesity. Now obesity is seen in people with cholesterol issues, and people with blood pressure, but that doesn't mean that obesity is a cause. Yes, obesity is associated most of the times, and it works beautifully. If a person who is overweight or obese, he needs to lose weight, and if he or she does lose weight, it does help in lowering down the cholesterol numbers as well, the BP, the hypertension as well. Yes, but can we say ki if you are fit, to look, if we see that visibly you are fit outside, it means you cannot have cholesterol issues. If you're fit outside, it means that, or if you're thin, outside, it means you cannot have hypertension or even diabetes issues. Now that's a mistake. As I said, diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol, these three are known as silent killers because anybody can be carrying it without even knowing it. So I have seen in my practice a lot of people who are thin and visibly fit from outside, but their metabolic health is suffering. And when we talk about all of these things, these are metabolic concerns. So it clearly shows that their metabolic health is suffering. And therefore, while it does help to reduce your weight if you're obese, being fit doesn't provide you immunity towards these concerns. Being thin, I mean, doesn't provide you immunity towards these concerns. So that is again another myth. On the contrary, I've also seen a lot of people who are slightly overweight, but they're completely fit metabolically. So their blood work is fine, they feel great, they are able to really work, for 10 hours, 11 hours. So it can be vice versa. You can be visibly fat from outside, but your metabolic health can be great inside, and vice versa. So that's also one thing that people need to start, understanding, that you cannot really loosely just, associate obesity with all of this. So now coming to the cause, when I say that neither it's oil or ghee, neither it's the salt, it's the quality of it, and neither it's really obesity. But as I said, it is a lifestyle disease, of course. So what is the cause, right? The cause for cholesterol, the cause for blood pressure. So there are two main causes. And I can really assure you that if you are one of those who have cholesterol or high blood pressure, or even if you have family members or friends or relatives who are having any of these concerns, even diabetes for example, you will notice that they have either of these two things. One is weak digestion and the other is weak absorption, right? So when we talk about weak digestion, how do you know that my digestion is weak? What are the signs of it? The signs of a weak digestion is having bloating, having acidity, the khatta dhaka, the jalan which we say, not able to evacuate, not able to pass your bowels effortlessly in the morning as soon as you get up, constipation. These are all signs of having a weak digestion. When you take a shower and after taking shower within an hour, if you feel hungry, that's a sign of an excellent digestion. So in Ayurveda, it is said that when you take your morning shower, immediately within an hour, immediately as in within an hour time, you should eat your first meal, which would be breakfast. So of course you should be having the hunger for it, and that's the sign of a great digestion. Again, if you don't feel hungry at all, like you eat and then you don't feel hungry for 6 hours, 7 hours, 5 hours, you don't feel hungry at all, but you just eat because शायद घड़ी में 2 बज गए हैं, ऑफिस में लंच ब्रेक हो गया है, मम्मी ने बोला है, खाना लगा दिया है. If those are the things that are happening with you, these are signs of weak digestion, right? What are the signs of weak absorption? The signs of weak absorption is having an urge to pass a bowel as soon as you finish your meal. That is one of the signs of weak absorption. The second sign is passing the bowels more often. So like anything which is like 3 to 4 times in a day, that's a sign of weak absorption. The third sign is when you pass your bowel, you should firstly always look at your stool, right? And when you look at it, if you see food particles in your stool, that's again a sign of weak absorption. So these are all signs of weak absorption, and I've explained the signs of weak digestion. And people with cholesterol issues, people with BP concerns, blood pressure concerns, are seen with are people who are harboring any of these concerns. Therefore, आप अगर सिर्फ घी छोड़ देंगे, तेल छोड़ देंगे, मैंने नमक छोड़ दिया, मैंने मीठा छोड़ दिया, अगर आप इसी लाइंस पे बात करेंगे, then none of these issues will get resolved long term permanently. If you really want to get off your cholesterol pills, the statins and the antihypertensives and all those, then you need to work on your digestion and absorption first, because that is the root cause, that is the core area. And until and unless you address the core of the problem, आप सिर्फ ऊपर काम कर रहे हैं, and that of course is not going to give you long term results, right? So whether it's losing weight, if you are obese, then as I said, it would help to lose weight, of course. So whether it's losing weight or whether it's working on your digestion, strengthening your digestion, strengthening your absorption, then what are the things that you can do? I have written a complete book which will help you not only to lose weight but also strengthen your digestion, strengthen the absorption. A lot of people who have read the book, followed the book, participated in the project, not participated but followed the 10-week plan independently at home, they've all seen better results, not only in terms of weight loss but also in improvements of all of their chronic symptoms. And the reason is precisely this, because this book focuses on strengthening your digestion, it focuses on strengthening your absorption. So of course ये पूरा book important है, और ये लाइव में आने का ये एम नहीं है कि ये पूरे बुक का मैं समरी दूं आपको 30 मिनट्स के अंदर आई विल जस्ट पॉइंट आउट फ्यू थिंग्स that can help in strengthening your digestion and absorption, but overall this entire book is going to help you, right? So number one, what are the points that you can do to strengthen your digestion? There are 6 points that I've chalked out. Number one is eating when hungry. Okay, so a lot of people, what they do is that they will not eat when the hunger is there. ठीक है, मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम पीपल टेंड टू बंक देयर लंच. तो अगर जैसे 11-12 बजा है, 12:30 बजा है, यू आर इन द ऑफिस, यू आर इन द स्कूल, कॉलेज, हाउस, whatever, and you feel that hunger for lunch, but then somehow you will not have your lunch at that time, so you will not eat when you are hungry, right? But your pancreas, your liver, your digestive enzymes, everything is right now prepared to take food, to receive food, because that is why you are having those hunger signals. But you will miss the bus because you just don't want to eat, or because you are busy and you have prioritized something else more than your meal. So what happens is the body rebalances, the body recoups, the liver will release a little glucose, because liver is the place where glucose is stored. Your muscles are glycogen, it will release a little glucose so as to kind of make you feel better, so the hunger goes away. For that time it will go away, and then later when you realize कि oh 3 बज गया है, oh 2:30 हो गया है, so it's time now, I should eat. Now the hunger is not there, but because आपने लंच अभी तक खाया नहीं है, डब्बा रखा है, and you are supposed to eat lunch, आप उस समय खाने लगते हैं. So you're eating at a time when you're not technically truly hungry. So that is the time when you start getting a weak digestion, when you do not eat when you are hungry, but you eat when the hunger has died off. The other part of this is also that you eat only when hungry, which also means that while most of the days आपका एक set routine होगा, एक set timing होगा कि मैं इतने बजे breakfast, इतने बजे lunch, because the body also has a memory and it's almost at round about 30 minutes के plus minus में आपको उसी समय hunger signals मिलेंगे. So while most of the time your routine would be there, but there would be certain occasions where you would not be hungry as usual. It could be in periods of illness, it could be because of change of location as well. You have traveled to a place, not just international travel, but even a domestic travel, that can lead to a change where you don't feel hungry in your usual timing, or because you're stressed, you're sad, you're angry. All of these things are there when you don't feel hunger. So when you're not hungry, please feel free to skip your food. Do not eat when you're not truly technically hungry, right? When you're truly hungry, you can sense it. It's very different. You kind of have a rumbling in your stomach kind of tells you that I'm hungry. So that is the time when you should really eat your food. And if because of any of these reasons that I mentioned, you're not hungry for a certain day, it's a day of kind of a thing, a one-off kind of a thing, then please feel free to skip your meal or delay your meal and then eat only when you get the hunger again. So that is the first point for building up a good digestion, is eating when hungry and eating only when hungry. The second point is don't eat too fast. Now there is a reason why we have teeth, there is a reason why we say that the digestion begins in the mouth, because अगर आप बिना उसको अच्छे से chew करके अगर आपने ऐसे ही खाना गल्प कर दिया, then what happens is that your gut, your digestion has some extra work to do, that after a long period of time, of course if you don't chew your food well only for one day, nothing will happen, but when you start doing it days after days, months after months, years after years, your digestion then starts getting weakening. because of this extra salt that is happening on it every single day. So it's important that you chew your food well, and most of the time ये chew हम इसीलिए नहीं कर पाते हैं अच्छे से खाने को, क्योंकि हम खाने पे focus ही नहीं करते हैं. We are always multitasking. We are eating on our work desk. We are eating seated in a couch. We are watching something. So we're never focused on our meal, because of which we do not end up chewing the food well. So chew the food well. One of the Vaidyas told me that when you don't chew your food well, it's like cooking the food with vegetables which are not chopped. तो आप अगर इमेजिन करो कि आपने वेजिटेबल्स को चॉप नहीं किया एंड यू स्टार्ट कुकिंग, हाउ वुड इट बी? इट वुड बी अ डिफिकल्ट वर्क फॉर यू. द सेम इज विद योर डाइजेशन. इफ यू डोंट chew your food well, it's a very difficult task for your digestion, leading it to weakening of digestion, weakening of absorption over time, and then leading to these chronic metabolic diseases that we are discussing today. The third point is eating too much. So I did explain about the good quality of ghee, the good quality of oil, the good quality of salt, the unprocessed foods. Even in the diabetes session, I explained what are the good quality of foods for diabetes. So that is all great, but having right quality of food doesn't mean that you can overeat on them, because even अगर आपके पास बहुत अच्छा quality है खाने का, you are having the right food, complete healthy right food, but अगर आप उसको overeat करते हैं, it will still lead to a lot of metabolic disturbances. It will still lead to weak digestion. So it is important कि आप overeat ना करें. In the books it's written that you should only eat food till your stomach is half full. आपका stomach सिर्फ half full होना चाहिए. 1/4 जो space है उसमें water होना चाहिए and 1/4 खाली होना चाहिए. On the book it sounds very good, but practically it becomes difficult. So when I in my practice with clients, it becomes very difficult to gauge कि मैं overeat कब कर रहा हूँ. Where is that threshold, right? Because how do I gauge that my stomach is half full and now it's 1/4 water and now it's 1/4 air, or it's empty? So very good sign is to see that if you feel hungry, like a proper hunger for your next meal. So if your breakfast is such that it doesn't lead to a good hunger by 11:30, 12 max, it means that you're overeating on your breakfast. So that's a very easy way to understand, right? If your lunch is such that you don't feel hungry till your dinner itself, like till 8 p.m. you are not feeling hungry, then it's a sure sign that you've overeaten on your lunch, right? So if you go back to this book, the chapter 10 is there, where it tells you that you don't have to eat every 2 hours. You don't have to keep grazing all through the day. But then there are certain meals which are important, like a breakfast is there, which should be light. It should enable you to have proper hunger for lunch, so that your lunch can be pretty wholesome. It should have like variety of things. Lunch के बाद around evening you should be feeling hunger that much enough for say a chai, coffee, or some fruits or some nuts or a light snack like a bhel. So that kind of a light hunger should be there. And then by dinner time your hunger should be there enough for a khichdi, and for a light dinner like a porridge again, a kanji. So if that is how you're having your hunger signals, then you can know that your quantity of food is fine and you're not overeating. Most of the time what I see is that people overeat in the breakfast so much that they don't feel hungry for lunch till 3 p.m. Then they will go and have a huge quantity at 3 p.m. for lunch, which is a very wrong time to begin with. And then that huge lunch is going to lead to again a long period of fasting till they feel hungry for dinner at say some 9:30 or 10 p.m., which again is a disaster. So eating too much, I think a very brilliant way is to just see that you get the right hunger signals at the right time and you're feeling hungry enough for your next meal. So these are the 3 things. The 4th thing is eating raw food without any spices. So this is again a very wrong thing to do when you eat raw foods. Now raw foods का क्या मतलब है? जब आपका खाना ही पूरा सैलड होता है कि लंच में मैंने क्या खाया, सैलड खाया. Then there's this whole trend promoted by a lot of nutritionists where they say that you start with a complete bowl, a big bowl of salad for your lunch, because उससे आपका आधा appetite तो ऐसे ही मर जाएगा, and then you will eat less for lunch. I don't understand why do we have to kill our appetite in the first place. Food should be cooked, period. I mean, there is no other thing that I want to talk about it, because As I said, the digestion begins in the mouth. If it doesn't begin in the mouth, when you chew well, there's extra load on your gut. The same is with cooking. जब हम cook करते हैं कोई चीज, the aim of cooking is so that it becomes easy for your gut to digest it. If you're keeping your food raw, then it becomes very difficult for the gut to just work on raw foods all the time. अगर if it's just a one-off thing, कभी कभी आपने कुछ खा लिया थोड़ा सा quantity, it will not hamper. But if it's become a daily business, then of course it leads to weak digestion, weak absorption, and gradually leading to all of these metabolic issues that we are talking about. So food should not be raw sprouts, raw salads, raw this, raw that. No, food should be cooked. It should be cooked with good spices as well. So please don't go, don't cut out the spices from your food. A lot of people who go high protein diets, they would just have a chicken tandoori, something which is grilled and roasted. Now the problem with grilled and roasted, of course, there's a different problem with the way it is cooked. But other than that, there's hardly any spices involved. It would just be some lemon or some seasoning, right? But when you do a proper Indian cooking, which has the tadka of a good quality oil, you would also use multiple spices. And these spices, interestingly, they change according to the recipe. So one day your recipe will ask you for some different spices. दूसरे दिन कुछ और spices रहेंगे. Ginger, pepper, turmeric, cinnamon. All of these are excellent spices when it comes to lowering down the cholesterol values. So, अगर आपको really, if your cholesterol numbers are hitting off the roof, then you should ensure that you cook your food with spices. The panch foran is there in Bengali culture. So whether it's the panch foran, whether it's ginger, pepper, these are all great spices. And please use these spices in your food. So that's the fourth. And the number fifth point is your mental attitude, your stress levels, especially during eating. Okay, so again, a lot of these religious books, ancient books, Ayurveda books, they will say that greed, anger, fear, doubt, grief, any of these emotions are not good when you're eating food. So see, technically, very scientifically speaking, whatever we eat, it becomes you, not even a part of you, it becomes you, right? हम जो भी खाना खाते हैं, actually it goes to your gut, it gets churned, it gets assimilated, absorbed, and then it reaches and it turns into a new cell. Every time our body in itself is going through a renewal and regeneration process. So every time a new cell is made, it is made from the food that you are eating. And अगर आप बहुत गंदे मन से दुख के साथ, गिल्ट के साथ, डाउट करते हुए कि ये खाना खाऊं नहीं खाऊं, कैलोरीज नहीं कैलोरीज, बोला है नहीं खाने, खा लूं क्या, with so much doubt and fear and grief, all of these emotions, if you eat your food, then that's the kind of cells also that you kind of create in your body. So it is important that you stay pleasant when you're eating. I have written about the SPAR technique in my book, which is SPAR. So please follow that technique. I have categorically mentioned how important it is to stay relaxed and to stay calm, at least during the process of eating, because then your parasympathetic nervous system dominates. And that's the only point, that's the only good way that your body can really digest that food, even if you're eating the best superfood in the world. But if you're eating with a lot of stress, with a lot of agitation, with fear, doubt, guilt, anything, then it's just not going to work for you. So your mental attitude and stress levels, not only during the process, of course during the process of eating is extremely vital, but even पूरे दिन में भी you should have some mental practices in place जो आपको आपके emotions को, आपके stress levels को manage करने में आपकी help करे. There has been no time even हमारे दादा दादी के समय पे जब उनको stress नहीं हुआ करता था. There were reasons to stress even in those times, but they just had few mental practices in place because of which they could manage that stress well, and that is what we are kind of not having today. A lot of practices I have mentioned in the book, so please go ahead, read it, and these are important things that should be there. Hypertension, as we know it, जब हम blood pressure बोलते हैं, blood pressure का नाम hypertension है, so उसके तो नाम में ही tension है और hyper है. So you understand कि hypertension का major cause itself is, being tensed and being hyper and being stressful. So that is one area that really is underrated, that is overlooked, and that is extremely important. So please take care of that. And the last point is lack of exercise, which I had mentioned is also a cardiac risk factor. But agar aapka sedentary lifestyle hai, there's lack of movement, lack of exercise, then also your digestion, your absorption gets weaker. So movement and exercise ना सिर्फ आपके heart health के लिए अच्छा है, आपके digestion के लिए भी अच्छा है, which will then influence your heart health as well. A lot of people are concerned कि weight training कर सकते हैं क्या if I have high blood pressure. So you can ask your doctor, you can check with your doctor. अगर आपका blood pressure बहुत ज़्यादा high नहीं है, if it's close, like borderline or a little more, there is no problem with strength training. If it is very high, then you might want to get it little under control and then start strength training. Having said that, strength training is extremely vital for people who are getting older, because most of the times we do see these concerns in little older people, though we are seeing a lot of these in people as young as 40 years old also now. But with every passing year after the age of 30, with every passing year you are losing your muscle mass, and every time you lose your muscle mass you are getting closer to all of these metabolic concerns, metabolic diseases. इसलिए बहुत ज़रूरी है कि आप strength training करें, you do a mix of workouts, आपका exercise wholesome हो. We had actually in the project number 1, we had done an expert live session with one of the exercise specialists who was working with me and who was working with me for Tapsi's transformation for Ashmi Rocket. So maybe you can go to our guide section and you can check that live, because we had spoken at length about what a good exercise routine should be. So in short, it should be a mix of everything. There should be a little bit of cardio, there should be some sort of a strength training. Not necessarily it has to be with dumbbells and stuff. It could be yoga also, because in yoga also you do use your own body weight, and therefore it also qualifies as a weight training. Of course, a lot of guidelines, even exercise routine दिया गया है इस book में. So yes, this book is also there, जहाँ पे आपको होम वर्कआउट्स दिए हुए हैं इस बुक में, योगा रूटीन्स दिए हुए हैं, गाइडलाइंस दिए गए हैं कि कितना एरोबिक करना है, कितना कार्डियो करना है, कितना स्ट्रेंथ ट्रेनिंग करना है. And again, for people who are completely sedentary, who have not taken up exercise at all, please do not get worried about doing too many things at one time. You can start with as less as 10 minutes of exercise, and you can just start with a 10-minute of walk. That itself, it's a public health guideline in the UK. It's called the Active 10 campaign. That अगर आप सिर्फ 10 मिनट के लिए चलो, that itself is going to protect you from a lot of chronic diseases. So कुछ भी नहीं होता है तो just go out there and just do a 10-minute walk. You don't need to even learn, you don't need a trainer. And then धीरे धीरे, of course, you can gradually build it up to 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Then gradually, when you feel strong enough, you can take up some other variety of workout. You can include some other variety as well. Now, I'll just wind up this session with a few foods. Although I'm not a person who kind of advocates superfoods in that sense, I am always a person who would like to advocate a complete lifestyle. But because we are in this age of superfoods, let me tell you few foods that are very good for your heart health, for cholesterol, for blood pressure. Number 1 is garlic. Garlic is something which works well for all of these conditions. आप उसको तड़के में यूज़ करो, आप उसको गार्लिक का सूप बनाओ. You can use garlic in multiple ways. I often use garlic, cloves of garlic, crush them, keep them in the air in the open for 10 minutes, because that is how all the compounds in the garlic starts working. Put them in milk and then give to a lot of my clients at bedtime who are having cholesterol issues. So garlic is something which is great for blood pressure as well, and for heart health as well. Garlic is also a great diuretic. So anything जो diuretic होता है, what is a diuretic? A diuretic is anything जो that increases the frequency of urine. So anything which is diuretic is great for high blood pressure, and garlic is also a diuretic, making it excellent for all of these conditions. Number 2 is barley. Barley again is a diuretic, so it's great for hypertension. It has beta glucan. What is beta glucan? Beta glucan वो फाइबर है जिसके लिए ओट्स पॉपुलर हुआ है. तो अगर ओट्स पॉपुलर है जिसके लिए ओट्स को एडवर्टाइज करते हैं कि ओट्स खाओ कोलेस्ट्रॉल घटाओ, तो लेट्स मेक अ देसी वर्जन, बार्ले खाओ कोलेस्ट्रॉल घटाओ. सो बार्ले इज द सेकंड फूड दैट आई वुड लाइक टू मेंशन ओवर हियर फॉर हार्ट, फॉर कोलेस्ट्रॉल, फॉर बीपी. The third I would say is buttermilk. Buttermilk again is a great food for people especially who are having weak absorption. Weak absorption के signs क्या हैं? I discussed in the beginning of this session. So it is great for people with weak absorption. You put turmeric, you put salt, you put curry leaves, and you put a bit of ginger as well. It becomes great for people with weak digestion as well. So my third food would be buttermilk. And in the end, I would just want to talk about the 4 herbs which is there in chapter 5, which is there in my book, because a lot of people get confused about it. So I'm talking about the 4 herbs. Chitraka and Trikatu, I have categorically mentioned in my book that hypertension is a contraindication. तो अगर आपको बहुत ज़्यादा आपकी blood pressure levels are off the roof, then please don't have Trikatu and Chitraka. But Triphala and Daruharitra are great for people with hypertension. अगर आपका hypertension मामूली सा बढ़ा हुआ है, then also you can go ahead and take Trikatu and Chitraka. Maybe you can reduce the dose. For people with cholesterol, all of these 4 herbs, which is Trikatu, Chitraka, Triphala, Daruharitra, all of these 4 are excellent. Please have it, and you are going to see the change not only in terms of how light you start feeling, but over a period of few months you would also see a great change in your blood work, in your report. So definitely go ahead and follow the book, follow the herbs, follow these lifestyle practices that I mentioned, and you will see that you are really, improving, not only in terms of just losing weight, but also, a lot of improvement in your health. With this, I'll end the session and I'll take few questions.
Ghee made from Amul Gold buffalo milk is good to consume?
It is not the best thing to do. So as I said, it's always good to have fresh milk. Not talking about any brand in particular, but any Tetra Pak milk should be avoided for the simple reason is कि कोई भी Tetra Pak milk जो होता है उसका shelf life होता है 5 महीना 6 महीना, and we know that कि milk अगर बिना कोई chemicals का होगा तो वो इतने महीने नहीं रह सकता. It will go bad, it will perish. So we don't want to have food which has many preservatives, and therefore it's just best to have fresh milk. There's also a thing which is said a lot in the community of people who believe in holistic medicine, that जब हम food खाते हैं preservatives का, तो हमारे body में भी वो preserved ही रहता है, because there's so many preservatives there. So in the body it doesn't go out, it just stays preserved, and when it stays preserved it will block all your important channels, and that's the reason why we are seeing so many diseases today.
How to improve digestion? Can you please share the key tips?
Yeah, so I shared 6 very major tips on how you can, increase your digestion, how you can strengthen your digestion, strengthen your absorption. So please go ahead and check this video. In fact, I have written a 300-page book on how you can strengthen your digestion and absorption. But for a quick thing, you can even go ahead and watch this video. So somebody is asking, during Corona, barley was excellent thing to recover fast. Absolutely. So barley is something which is great and which people have forgotten, but it should be there. It's a great recovery food. Somebody is asking, amla juice daily is good. Of course, amla is something which is very good. Even for blood pressure, amla is very good. For cholesterol, it's very good. So amla can be had in multiple ways, not just the juice, but even the juice is fine if you want to have the juice.
Is it okay to have ghee made out of buffalo milk if pure desi ghee is not available?
Yes, buffalo milk is still better if it's a fresh milk, not a Tetra Pak milk, although I will say that cow milk is the best.
Do you treat cancer patients as well?
I don't think this is the right place to talk about a disease like cancer. So maybe you can write us an email and then we can, get and discuss the complete details of what exact cancer you're talking about.
Can you also share some breakfast foods that are very good?
So many breakfast recipes are there in my book. So many recipe reels we have made on an Instagram page. So we have also done one post where I have mentioned all the breakfast options. So what I suggest is that please get hold of this book. Of course, the book is available not only as a physical paperback, but it's also available as an audio book. So you can go out there, or you can just go to my guide section and check out all the recipe reels. There's a lot of diet plans for breakfast and all of dinner options. Everything is there. So I think you can do a bit of research. You will find a lot of options if you just go on my Instagram or just pick up this book.
Can you please brief on multigrain atta?
So multigrain atta, and this is the last question that I'll take for the day. If there are more questions, I'll request you all to put it as comments in the post, and I'll definitely answer back. So multigrain atta is, firstly, we do not know what grains we are talking about, right? So whether it's a multi-millet atta, multi-grain atta, it's always good to avoid them. It's good to have only a single atta, like a jawar ka atta. So it's good to have a single millet atta, like even a jawar ka atta or a bajre ka atta. It's good to not mix them. अगर आपने कभी 15 दिन में एक बार उसका मिक्स करके खाया, like for example in Maharashtra, a lot of people make thali peet. Now thali peet is actually nothing but a multi-millet, multi-grain thing, right? It's a kind of a roti which is made with 2 to 3 or 4 kinds of atta is mixed together. But ask any Maharashtrian and he or she will tell you that thali peet is not something that they have every day. It is had very occasionally. It's almost, it tastes delicious, so it's almost taken as a luxury, taken as a treat meal, and it is had like very occasionally. So अगर आप कोई भी multi millet, multi आटा कर रहे हैं, if you're just having it once in a month, it's fine, but don't make it a daily habit. The reason is because each atta, each grain, each millet has its own gun, has its own guna, has its own nature, has its own prakriti. It could be heating, it could be cooling. So you do not want to just randomly mix things, because then they don't create a good cocktail inside you. In my book also I have mentioned very clearly that don't do these multi-millets and all that, and I have mentioned that if at all you want to do it, the max that you can mix is 2 millets or 2 grains together. That also you ensure that you are mixing the opposite natured grains together. For example, if you're mixing, if you have barnyard millet, now barnyard millet is a heating millet, so you mix it up with proso millet, which is a cooling millet. So you don't do 2 heating millets together, you don't do 2 cooling millets together, but you mix 1 heating and 1 cooling, because then they would sort of kind of neutralize each other, and that is how it will work in your favor. So to summarize, I will say that do not have it often. If you do have it, then do not mix it more than 2 millets or 2 grains at a go, and see to it that they are of opposite nature, they are not of the same nature together. So with this, I'll just summarize the session and then just call it off. So with cholesterol, with blood pressure, with diabetes, these are the silent killers for the heart diseases, and you need to kind of measure them, check them, only then you know कि आपको ये तकलीफ है या नहीं है. Just because you're thin or fit or you exercise, none of this will offer immunity towards any of these concerns. At the same time, if you're obese, it works well to lose weight, because then it works on these conditions as well. Having said that, being obese is not a short thing that you are going to have all of these conditions. Ghee, oil, salt, sugar, none of these are a problem. The problem is the bad quality of them. The problem is when you eat them at the wrong time. The problem is when you overeat on them. So choose the right quality, eat at the right time, eat in the correct quantity. The best foods for them, I have listed 3. Garlic, barley and buttermilk. Buttermilk with all the spices that I mentioned. The 4 herbs in chapter 5 are good to go, so do not worry about them. And of course, the main thing is that you need to work to strengthen your digestion and absorption, because weak digestion and weak absorption are the main causes for all of these metabolic diseases. So eat when you are hungry, eat only when you are hungry. Do not eat too much, do not eat too fast, do not eat raw foods, do not avoid spices while you're cooking, and do not stress or have very negative emotions while you're eating food. Work on your stress levels, work on your emotions, manage them, and of course incorporate some kind of a physical activity, because that also helps to strengthen your digestion and absorption. Have a variety of exercises. Just like food, even exercise should be diverse. So with this, I will end the session, and I'll meet you again next Friday with another concern, with another disease. And if you have any questions, then please feel free to ask me, drop in the comment section, and I'll go to answer them for you. I hope you found this helpful. Thank you.